If you were worried, like I was, that today's House Judiciary Committee impeachment hearing was going to be all dry legal jargon without any real answers, worry not, as some of the law professors went straight to the point.
President Trump has committed impeachable high crimes and misdemeanors by corruptly abusing the office of the presidency.
Drawing a foreign government into our elections is an especially serious abuse of power because it undermines democracy itself.
If what we're talking about is not impeachable, then nothing is impeachable. This is precisely the misconduct that the framers created a Constitution, including impeachment, to protect against.
All of those three, called by Democrats, agreed in their expert opinions the president's actions amounted to impeachable offenses as described in the Constitution. But Republicans had their own constitutional expert, and even while he said he feels Democrats are taking things too far, too fast, not even he is buying the president's favorite defense.
It's not wrong because President Trump is right. His call was anything but perfect. It's wrong because this is not how you impeach an American president. Fast and narrow is not a good recipe for impeachments. I'm concerned about lowering impeachment standards to fit a paucity of evidence and an abundance of anger. I believe this impeachment not only fails to satisfy the standard of past impeachments, but would create a dangerous precedent for future impeachments.
That professor said everyone's mad. He said his dog is even mad. Republicans argued that Democrats were rushing to impeach the president simply because they don't like him. But Democrats argued the evidence against Trump is overwhelming.
Never before has a president engaged in a course of conduct that included all of the acts that most concerned the framers.
We have just a deep-seated hatred of a man who came to the White House and did what he said he was going to do.
And as for the president himself,
it's a joke. Everybody is saying it.
Are they? Joining me to discuss are former Massachusetts U.S. Attorney Don Stern. Don worked alongside Bob Mueller, both during his stint with the Department of Justice and in private practice at Hale and Dorr. Don, good to see you again. As always, Lylah Alphonse, managing editor for U.S. News and World Report. And same to you, of course, Lylah. Good to see you. Anything achieved today, Don? Well, that's not a good answer.
I think the Democrats' view was to lay out some of the standards for impeachment, but I think what it turned into was kind of a food fight over what the standards are, and things got muddied a bit.
You're nodding in agreement?
I like the term food fight. I think that's exactly what it is. People are flinging mashed potatoes across the room.
Well, let me say that I actually had really low expectations for this, but my takeaway is actually different from yours. Let me give you a couple of examples. One, in his opening statement, Jerry Nadler said things like that Trump took extraordinary and unprecedented steps to obstruct the special counsel's investigation. He said that Trump not only welcomed foreign interference in the 2016 election, which obviously was the focus of Mueller's investigation. So the message to me, and I could be way off base, is he started to answer the question about whether the articles of impeachment are going to be broader, including some of the Mueller obstruction of justice charges. The answer appears to be yes, no?
Well, yes, but it's hard to know exactly what that means. I think, in my view, there are kind of two extremes. One is you make it very, very narrow, and you keep it just on Ukraine. The other is you make it very, very broad and include all of Mueller. My own view is it should be Ukraine plus.
What does that mean?
The plus means the obstruction of justice, selective instances of obstruction.
Doesn't that sound like where Nadler seems to be going?
Yes, it does. So, and let me give you an example. I wouldn't include, for example, the Comey firing, because that's kind of complicated. But I would include, for example, the Don McGahn change your testimony.
The White House counsel.
White House counsel.
That's some of the list of 10 that obviously were listed by Mueller.
Correct.
Do you agree with that? I mean, is he signaling something here?
I think he is, and I would also go a little bit farther. I would also include the forbidding people to testify on the record. I would include ignoring subpoenas. I would include the very same things that Lindsey Graham was so upset about way back when. Exactly. I would include that as well.
You know, there's another thing that I thought also was, I don't know if it was significant, but one of the primary arguments that the Republicans have made in the last couple of weeks at least is, allegedly the president demanded a press conference, but there was no press conference. He demanded an investigation, allegedly. There was no investigation. And you Democrats are saying he withheld the funds. Did they get the $400 million we got? Well, Noah Feldman, right from here in town at Harvard Law School, he addressed the sort of no harm, no foul thing. Here's Feldman.
President Nixon was subject to articles of impeachment preferred by this committee for attempting to cover up the Watergate break-in. The fact that President Nixon was not ultimately successful in covering up the break-in was not grounds for not impeaching him. The attempt itself is the impeachable act.
Each of those three professors picked by Democrats had real-world examples, which I think did a lot, if people were paying attention, to explain in real terms why the Republicans are wrong on this issue, no?
You notice the defense has moved kind of to, sure, if he did what he did, that would be impeachable, but the fact that he did it makes it not impeachable. And also the Constitution isn't constitutional, which doesn't seem to make any sense. But I think that it's important to remember that this is not a criminal trial. Not all felonies are impeachable offenses, and not all impeachable offenses are felonies.
Gerald Ford once said when he was in Congress, his impeachment is what impeachable offense is whatever we say it is.
In some ways, I don't think that would fly today, really. But he doesn't actually have to have completed what he was asking for or have gotten what he was asking for in order for this to go forward.
But, you know, every time you're here and we're talking about this, Don, I try to equate it to, like, when you pick juries in your former life, and you don't always like those comparisons. Here, the jury is the American people. If you were paying attention today, I think fair-minded people, assuming there are any left in this country, would shake and say, I got it now. I do understand. If you demand $20 from a, you know, whatever the example was, from a bank teller, and they only give you 10, doesn't mean you didn't try to steal 20, or whatever the example was. Those are real-world examples, no?
They are. I mean, I think the best summary of the evidence and the best example, and I know you've had issues with Adam Schiff and his performance. I disagree with you. I think he's been superb and really very professional, is to read his preface to the House report, Intelligence Committee, and the executive summary of the testimony. It lays it out and includes, you know, all of the things that Lylah's talking about, which is, you know, the refusal, the ordering of witnesses, you know, whether it's Mulvaney or Pompeo to testify, and his efforts to sort of embarrass and intimidate existing witnesses.
You know, this may be small, but this also, I think, harkens back to who you call in a hearing. I thought the Republicans on at least one issue, yet again, outflanked the Democrats. When Turley, Professor Turley, who obviously was the one who said, I don't think it's impeachable offense, introduced himself. I thought it was very effective to say, I'm not a supporter of Trump. I didn't vote for him. In fact, I voted for Clinton and Obama in prior elections. The Democrats picked three people who was pretty clear were ideologically opposed to the president. Wouldn't it have been wiser to have and there are tons of them, a George Conway ally, a law professor with impeccable conservative credentials who said the same things those three liberal-leaning people said?
I think probably. I mean, to pick a witness, I mean, I didn't see all the testimony, and they all are very distinguished constitutional
scholars.
There's
no question.
But to pick a witness who said, you know, defamation by tweet is an impeachable offense strikes me as not the best witness.
Yeah, I would say that it's important to remember that Turley didn't say none of this is impeachable. He said he felt that the way the process is going, that it's too narrow and it's going too quickly. He also seemed to be saying that we need to hear directly from the people who are defending Trump, and those people are refusing to comply with subpoenas. They're refusing to speak on the record and under oath. The people who are bringing forth evidence for impeachment are agreeing to speak under oath. So he's saying unless we get the people who are refusing to speak, there's not enough to go on. And that kind of is a gridlock there.
Can I make one point?
Sure.
One of the disappointing things to me in this whole process is the speed by which the court has resolved these issues. Now, substantively,
the lack of speed,
the lack of speed. So, substantively, almost every court that dealt with these issues, subpoenas, you know, absolute immunity of the president, have gone against the president. But the fact that it's taken months and months in some cases. So, for example, I think it was the Second Circuit yesterday that issued an opinion. It was a 104-page opinion. It took months to produce. I'd rather have seen a 5-page order done in 2 weeks rather than a 104-page opinion done in 4 months.
You made Marjorie Egan's night. She says that every single day on the radio, why can't they speed this thing up? Can we briefly, last night we were on television, was before people had a full opportunity to read the Democratic report out of the Intelligence Committee. We learned about Giuliani phone calls that it seems to me, former U.S. attorney, dig him in even deeper. What's that?
Do I have to admit to that?
Devin Nunes, who is the ranking minority member of the Intelligence Committee. Well, actually, here's what Adam Schiff had to say about some phone call logs relating to Devin Nunes. Here he is.
It is, I think, deeply concerning that at a time when the President of the United States was using the power of his office to dig up dirt on a political rival, that there may be evidence that there were members of Congress complicit in that activity. Now, there's a lot more to learn about that, and I don't want to state that that is an unequivocal fact. But the allegations are deeply concerning.
Phone logs that he talked to Giuliani, that he talked to Lev Parnas, the indicted associate of Giuliani who was involved in this Ukraine stuff, just days before Ambassador Yovanovitch was removed. I don't even know, what do you recuse yourself from? What do you do?
Well, if I were Adam Schiff, I would say, I'll testify if you testify.
Devin Nunes.
Yes.
But what happens to Nunes? He is, as they call it, a fact witness, as the Republicans like to say. No?
You know, the hypocrisy is kind of stunning to me. So he's basically going after Adam Schiff, saying, you know, out the whistleblower, you need to testify. Meanwhile, he's kind of hiding in the bushes of the fact that he himself had been ongoing contact in an effort to kind of smear the ambassador of Ukraine.
Would you be hiring a lawyer if you were Devin Nunes?
You know, I don't know. He's a member of Congress. He's got a lot of protections in terms of what he does. I'm not sure if he needs a lawyer. Rudy probably does.
Well, I'm sure he has one. We only have a minute left here. You know, my sense is that there is a bit of a disengagement on the part of the American public. We know the first 2 weeks of hearings didn't pump the numbers up at all. Independents are actually losing, their support being lost amongst them. Very quickly, 15 seconds each. Can the Democrats re-engage the public? Will it happen? Or are they just playing out the string? The Democrats vote to impeach and remove, and we go home?
I don't know. My guess is it's probably the latter. My own view of this is just making the historic record that it's unlikely to change anyone's mind.
Will there be re-engagement at all by the public, or engagement?
I'm not sure there's engagement to begin with, let alone re-engagement. People want infotainment, and they want confirmation instead of information, and this isn't giving it to them. I think each side is really digging in even deeper, and I think that this is really for the history books. This is what our grandkids are going to be studying later about how this all shook out, but I'm not sure that it's really changing anyone's minds right now.
How pathetic is that? Lylah, thank you.
Nice
Good to see
you.
you, Don.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks,
your time, as always. Lylah Alphonse, Don Stern.